Hi, I'm Krista, and this is Tony. We're here to help you be a better landlord. So, Tony, you are the head of customer operations over at Livble.
Correct.
Livble is one of the wonderful companies that TurboTenant partners with. We're so grateful for everything you guys do, providing a seamless integration of premium rent splitting services, which is a long way of saying that you guys help tenants. But how do you do that? What is Livble?
Well, yes, thank you. We're happy to hear that TurboTenant's excited about the partnership. We love to hear that. Livable is a financial platform that allows tenants to free up their cash flow. And the way that we do that is by offering tenants the ability to split the rent with Livable and have multiple installments throughout the month. The best thing about this is that for landlords, this is ensuring that their tenants are paying rent on time. So you can really think about it as like a tool to avoid late fees, avoid late payments. It's always a headache to have to hound a tenant for a rent payment, especially if you're waiting on making a mortgage payment or something like that. So we really kind of reduce the friction for landlords and tenants by giving tenants that financial breathing room that they need and enhancing that relationship between landlord and tenant.
Beautiful. Okay, so the tenant has the flexibility to pay rent when they need to, but the landlord still gets that rent on time and in full.
Exactly. Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how do tenants qualify?
Yeah, great question. So we have an underwriting process. What we do is once a tenant signs up, they have to actually link their bank account information. Our underwriting model has been trained over many years, but we look at multiple different factors, such things like cash flow, transaction history, debt management, overall kind of financial status and health. But what's cool is that we don't rely on credit scores or credit reports really. So from a tenant standpoint, that can be helpful in certain cases. But that's also kind of ensuring that a landlord's tenants are eligible for the credit limit that we're able to provide them.
Beautiful. And something that we talked a little bit about off camera is the fact that you guys actually report rent payments. And
Yep.
We've had landlords asking, when rent reporting comes up, are late rent payments being reported as well? Can you speak a little bit to how Livable treats rent reporting?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So part of our mission is to enhance that tenant experience, as I said. So we also report on-time payments to Experian right now. And hopefully in the future, we'll be able to report to other credit bureaus. So tenants that are splitting rent with Livable and pay their installments back on time, those payments get reported to the credit bureaus, allowing the tenants to build credit nicely and easily. From a late payment standpoint, if a user makes it through the entire month that they had split rent for and they weren't able to pay us back, unfortunately, we are going to be reporting that type of delinquency to the credit bureaus. But for landlords, I think that's helpful because that kind of gives them a better bird's eye view of their rent payment history when they're selecting tenants.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And funny enough, bringing up the landlords and how they benefit from that rent reporting, I'm curious, what other benefits do landlords see when their tenants use Livable?
It's a great question. So I think overall, they're just seeing a lot more on-time payments, right? A lot of happier tenants because they're not having to charge them a late fee, which never is fun for either side, I would imagine. And overall, like I said, just an enhanced landlord-tenant experience. So instead of a tenant having to reach out to a landlord and kind of fighting like, hey, can I get another 5-day grace period or something like that, using Livable kind of removes all that friction and that unnecessary communication and just makes both sides a lot easier overall.
Yeah, really streamlines the relationship.
Streamlines it, yes.
We love to see it.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool. So it sounds like plenty of benefits for both landlords and tenants. I'm curious, do you or Livable have any case studies or data points regarding happy customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the retention data, we see about 70% of our users returning to Livable after more than 6 months. And I think that metric right there really goes to show how reliable and trustworthy our service is. Of course, we're still growing, so we're hoping to see that 70% turn into 90%, turn into 100%. For landlords, though, I think that they should be looking at that metric and understanding that, this is something that really allows landlords to avoid missed payments or late payments, right? As far as like case studies go, there was one woman that we talked to. It was a landlord who actually reached out, and her name is Siobhan, and she said that she's been using us for a couple months and was just really impressed with how it increased her relationship with her tenants. I believe she had 2 tenants using Livable, which is awesome. And She was really impressed with the customer support that she was getting, which I love to hear. But overall, I think that, we do see a lot of these types of folks reaching out and just expressing gratitude for what we offer because, as you said earlier, it streamlines the process in such an easier way for both sides.
And really anything that benefits both the landlord and the tenant, personally, I'm a fan of. I know TurboTenant is a fan of. So great partnership.
Awesome.
I'm curious, do you have any recommendations for landlords who are really excited about this service and want to tell their tenants about it?
Yeah, definitely. So first and foremost, I think it's best if a landlord introduces Livable when a tenant is signing a lease, right, as part of that introductory kind of conversation. Of course, they can do that if they're in the middle of a lease too. But I think to set a tenant up with these expectations while signing a lease, it's a really cool service that maybe most tenants aren't used to. What I would say if I was a landlord to my tenant would be something like, hey, Livable allows you to split your rent into manageable payments that fits your budget, but rest assured I'll still receive rent on time and, I won't have to charge you a late fee. So I think, again, it really kind of demonstrates that win-win on both sides.
I mean, beautiful.
Yeah.
We love to hear it. Is there anything else you'd like to say to landlords out there who are curious about Livable or enabling this for their tenants?
Sure. I think in general for landlords, hopefully you're using TurboTenant as it's by far the best PMS out there, I think. But I would say that for any landlord, Livable really does offer such a unique experience for tenants. And if you're a landlord that cares about your tenants, which I hope every landlord does, this is a great way to, allow them to build really meaningful credits, just free up their cash flow and just have kind of an easier lifestyle. And if I can speak to, like an integration with TurboTenant, for example, I think what's really a key takeaway for TurboTenant from what we've discussed is that with our service, we really have built a pretty comprehensive service and we've done all the heavy lifting. So from compliance and regulatory management to risk mitigation and the customer support, we handle all that. So it allows TurboTenant to offer a really cool service that they don't, TurboTenant didn't have to put years of dev bandwidth into. And so we take on that heavy lifting and it's just, through a fully integratable system, we can offer some cool services to tenants.
I mean, and they are very cool services.
Well, thank you. Love to hear it.
Of course. Tony, thank you so much for your time and
pleasure.
expertise.
Thank you.
Landlords, if you have any questions about premium rent splitting, what that looks like, how it could benefit you, please drop them in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.